Hello everybody and welcome back to my continuation of my book reading of Stephen King's Shawshank Redemption. If anything at all can be said in favor of Solitary, it's just that you get time to think. Andy had 20 days in which to think while he enjoyed his grain and drain. When he get out, he requests another meeting with the warden. Request denied. Such a meeting, the warden told him, would be counterproductive. That's another of those phrases you have to master before you can go to work in the prisons and corrections field. Patiently, Andy renewed his request, and renewed it, and renewed it. He had changed. At Andy Dufresne, suddenly at that spring of 1963, bloomed around us. There were lines in his face, and springs of grey showing in his hair. He had lost that little trace of a smile that always seemed to linger around his mouth. His eyes stared out into space more often, and you get to know when a man stares that way. He is counting up the years served, the months, the weeks, the days. He renewed his request and renewed it. He was patient. He had nothing but time. It got to be summer. In Washington prison, Kennedy was promising a fresh assault on poverty and on civil rights, not knowing he had only half a year to live. In Liverpool, a musical group called the Beatles was emerging as a force to be reckoned with in the British music, but I guess that no one at stateside had yet heard of them. The Boston Red Sox, still 4 years away from what the New England folks call the miracle of '67. All of those things were going on out in the larger world, where people walked free. Norton saw him near the end of June, and this conversation I heard about from Andy himself some 7 years later. If it's the money, you don't have to worry, Andy told Norton in a low voice. Do you think I'll talk that up? I'd be cutting my own throat. I'd just be indictable as that's enough, Norton interrupted. His face was as long and cold as a slate gravestone. He leaned back in his office chair until the back of his head almost touched the sampler, reading his judgment, comment, and that right early. But don't you ever mention money to me again, Norton said. Not in this office, not anywhere. Not unless you want to see that library turned back into a storage room and paint locker again. Do you understand? I was trying to set your mind at ease, that's all. Well, now, when I need a sorry son of a bitch like you to set my mind at ease, I'll retire. I agreed to this appointment because I got tired of being pestered, Dufresne. I wanted to stop. If you want to buy this particular Brooklyn bridge, that's your affair. Don't make it mine. I could hear crazy stories like yours twice a week if I want to lay myself open to them. Every sinner in this place will be using me for a crying towel. I had more respect for you, but this is the end. The end. Have we got an understanding? Yes, Andy said. But I'll be hiring a lawyer, you know. What in God's name for? I think we can put it together, Andy said. With Tommy Williams, and with my testimony and corroborative testimony from records and employees at the country club, I think we can put it together. Tommy Williams is no longer an inmate in this facility. What? He's been transferred. Transferred? Where? Cashman. At that, Andy felt silent. He was an intelligent man, but it would have taken an extraordinarily stupid man not to smell deal all over that. Cashman was in minimum security prison far up north in Aroostook County. The inmates pick a lot of potatoes, and that's hard work, but they are paid a decent wage for the labor, and they can attend classes at CVI, a pretty decent technical institute, if they so desire. more important to a fellow like Tommy, a fellow with a young wife and a child. Cashman had the furlong program, which means a chance to live like a normal man, at least on the weekends. A chance to build a model plane with his kids, have sex with his wife, maybe go on a picnic. Norton had almost surely dangled all of that under Tommy's nose with only one string attached. Not one more word about Elwood Blatch. Not now, not ever. Or you'll end up doing hard time in Thomaston down there on Scenic Route 1 with the real hard guys. Instead of having sex with your wife, you'll be having it with some old bull queer. But why? Andy said. Why would... As a favor to you, Norton said calmly. I checked with Rhode Island. They did have an inmate named Elwood Blatch. He was given what they call a PP, provisional parole. Another one of these crazy liberal programs to put criminals out on the streets. He's since disappeared. Andy said, the warden down there, is he a friend of yours? Then Norton gave Andy a smile as cold as a deacon's watch chain. We are acquainted, he said. Why? Andy repeated. Can you tell me why you did it? You knew I wasn't going to talk about anything you might have had going. You knew that, so why? Because people like you make me sick, Norton said deliberately. I like you right where you are, Mr. Dufresne, and as long as I am warden here at Shawshank, you're going to be right here. You see, you used to think that you were better than anyone else. I've gotten pretty good at seeing that on a man's face. And I marked it on yours the first time I walked into the library. It might as well have been written on your forehead in capital letters. That look is gone now, and I like it just fine. It's not just that you are a useless vessel. Never think that. It's simply that men like you need to learn humility. Why you used to walk around that exercise yard as if it was a living room. And you were one of those cocktail parties where the hellbound walks around, coveting each other's wives and husbands, and getting twinsily drunk. But you don't walk around that way anymore. And I'll be watching to see if you should start to walk that way again. Over a period of years, I'll be watching you with great pleasure. Now get the hell out of here. Okay, but all the extracurriculars activities stop now, Norton. The investment counseling, the scams, the free tax advice, it all stops. Get HR blocked to tell you how to declare your extortionate income. Warden Norton's face first went brick red, and then all the colors fell out of it. You're going back into solitary. For that, 30 days, bread and water, another black mark. And while you're in, think about this. If anything that's been going on should stop, the library goes. I will make it my personal business to see that it goes back to what it was before you came here. I'll make your life very hard, very difficult. You'll do the hardest time it's possible to do. You'll lose that one bunk Hilton down in cell block 5 for stars. And you'll lose those rocks on the windowsill. And you'll lose any protection the guards have given you against the sodomites. You will lose everything. Clear? I guess it was clear enough. Time continued to pass, and the oldest trick in the world, and maybe the only one that really is magic, but Andy Dufresne had changed. He had grown harder. That's the only way I can think of to put it. He went on doing Warden Norton's dirty work, and he held on to the library, so outwardly things were about the same. He continued to have his birthday drinks and his New Year's Eve drinks. He continued to share out the rest of each bottle. I got him fresh rock polishing clothes from time to time, and in 1967, I got him a new rock hammer. The one I gotten him 19 years ago had plump worn out. 19 years. When you see it sudden like that, those 3 syllables sound like the thud and double locking of a tomb door. The rock hammer, which had been a $10 item back then, went from 22 by 67. He and I had a sad little grin over that. And he continued to shape and polish the rocks he had found in the exercise yard, and the yard was smaller by then. Half of what it had been in 1950 had been asphalted over in 1962. Nonetheless, he found enough to keep him occupied, I guess. When he had finished with each rock, he would put it carefully on the window ledge, which faced east. He told me he liked to look at them in the sun, the pieces of the planet he had taken up from the dirt and shaped. Schists, quartz, grants, fine little mica sculptures that were held together with airplane glue. Various sedimentary that were polished and cut in such a way that you could see what Andy called them millennium sandwiches. The layers of different material that had been built up over a period of decades and centuries. Andy would give his stones and his rock sculptures away from time to time in order to make room for new ones. He gave me the greatest number, I think, counting the stones that looked like matching cufflinks. I had 5. There was one of the mica sculptures I told you about, carefully crafted to look like a human, like a man throwing a javelin, and 2 of the sedimentary conglomerates, all the levels showing in smoothly polished cross-section. I still got them, and I take them down every so often. I think about what a man can do if he has time enough and the will to use it. A drop of time, a drop at a time. So on the inside at least, things were about the same. If Norton had wanted to break Andy as badly as he had said, he would have had to look below the surface to see the change. But if he had seen how different Andy had become, I think Norton would have been well satisfied with the 4 years following his clash with Andy. He had told Andy that Andy walked around the exercise yard as if he were at a cocktail party. That isn't the way I would have put it, but I know what he meant. It goes back to what I said about Andy wearing his freedom like an invisible cloak, about how he never really developed a prison mentality. His eyes never really got that dull look. He never developed the walk that men get when the day is over and they are going back to their cells for another endless night. That flat-footed, hump-shouldered walk. And he walked with his shoulders squared, and his step was always light, as if he was heading home to a good home-cooked meal and a good woman instead of a tasteless mess of soggy vegetables, lumpy mashed potatoes, and a slice or 2 of that fatty, gristly stuff most of the cons called mystery meat, and a picture of Raquel Welch on the wall. But for those 4 years, although he never became exactly like the others, he did become silent, introspective, and brooding. But who would blame him? So maybe it was Warden Norton who was pleased, at least for a while. His dark mood broke around the time of the 1967 World Series. That was a dream year, the year of the Red Sox. The year the Red Sox won the pennant instead of placing ninth, as the Las Vegas bookies had predicted. When it happened, when they won the American League pennant, a kind of ebullience engulfed the whole prison. There was a goofy sort of feeling that if the Dead Sox would come back to life, then maybe anybody could do it. I can't explain that feeling now any more than an ex-Beatlemaniac could explain that madness, I suppose. But it was real. Every radio in the place was tuned to the games of as the Red Sox pounded down the stretch. There was gloom when the Sox dropped a pair in Cleveland near the end, and a nearly riotous joy when Rico Petrocelli put away the pop fly that clinked it. And there was a gloom that came when Blomberg was beating in the 7th game of the series to end the dream just short of complete patrician. It probably pleased Norton to no end, the son of a bitch. He liked his presence wearing sackcloth and ashes. But for Andy, there was no tumbling down into gloom. He wasn't much of a baseball fan anyway, and maybe that was why. Nevertheless, he seemed to have caught the current of good feeling. And for him, it didn't peter out again after the last game of the series. He had taken that invisible cloak out of the closet and put it on again. I remember one bright gold fall day in very late October, a couple of weeks after the World Series had ended. It must have been a Sunday because the exercise yard was full of men walking off the week. Tossing a frisbee or two, passing around a football, bartering what they had to barter. Others would be at the long table in the visitors' hall under the watchful eyes of the screws, talking with their relatives, smoking cigarettes, telling sincere lies, receiving their picked over care packages. And with this, guys, I'm going to end it here for the continuation of my book reading. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.